right behind Vicky Compass's place. And I think as far as today's gathering is concerned, our property has the distinction because that's where Bud did his run. And I'm a tad younger than he is. And it's all I can do to walk it, let alone run it. I think Bud and our family connected because my father was a runner. And my father passed away about 7 years ago, but up until his final years, he was a runner, and he just sort of plodded along Elklick Road. And I'm sure that Bud saw him one day, and they got to talking, and they became Bud was a wonderful guy.
It's all right. It's all right.
And to me, he really embodies what this community is all about. People reaching out to each other, helping each other. He had a keen mind. He had a terrific sense of humor. He and Jeanette threw superb Memorial Day parties. He thought he was a pretty good ping pong player. I can lay that to rest. No offense. But I'll never forget it. And I love it.
Thank you. Here, I know that's a little harder, just something more videotaping and so forth.
As many of you know, our dog was sometimes always in trouble. A lot of times needed Bud's help in the end. And one particular story that stands out in my mind is one summer evening about 9 o'clock, she goes down off our deck, underneath the deck, and kills a raccoon. And a big skirmish and lots of squealing, and then I go down and the raccoon's dead, and I'm home by myself, and I think, oh geez, what am I gonna do? So I call Bud. So he says, I'll be over. And he told me what to do with the dog. Don't tie her up, don't touch her. And then we had to bury the raccoon, he insisted. So we decided the best place would be along the edge of the woods where we could dig. By this time it's about 9:30 at night, it's dark. And so I'm holding the spotlight and Bud's digging a hole. We have this dead raccoon in a bucket. And I said, geez, Bud, I feel like you murdered somebody. and I forgot to say, he comes in his jumpsuit with his pockets all over. He always wore, like he's going to breed a cow or something. And so we buried the raccoon, and we were just getting done, and then Mike comes home. We're standing in the garage talking about it, and he's like, what did you guys just do? By this time it's 10 o'clock at night. So that was my raccoon story. He was always helping me with my bad dog issues.
I took a Bud's his feed bag. I did it.
I remember hearing about that.
Like Jim Kelly, Marshall.
All right, well, everybody in here, if you ever been to Bud's house, you know how much he loves duct tape. It was even mentioned. He would duct tape anything together. And anyway, I plow driveways around here, and I plow Bud and Jeanette, and Bud always wanted to go with me when it'd be dark. And he'd always want to go with me, and we would. I told him, I'll bring you, because in case I get stuck, I'll need somebody to help push me out. But anyway, one night he comes out of the house, and he has this big black thing right here on the corner of his glasses, and it's dark. He gets in the truck, and I look at him. I said, Bud, what's that? One of them Google cameras? He said, no, it's just duct tape. But instead of only putting one wrap on it, you
little place down near Philadelphia, nobody's ever heard of it. I said, oh, well, give it shot. We're from near Philadelphia too. And with that, he says, I grew up in Havertine. And I'm like, oh, that's where we live. So, but he immediately made us feel welcome. Immediately, you know, was always, like you say, they're on the spot with things, dropping off blueberries that they picked, or squash, or zucchinis, or, you know, he was always Mr. Friendly and always thinking ahead and thinking of others. It was great.
Our families go back another generation. My parents were friends with Bud and Evelyn, his parents, and so they were good friends. We're good friends. Sorry. And so that's the history. But Bud's always been there as a friend of our family, and you know, we get these long gloves, plastic gloves from him for hunting. He's got them because he has to put his arm in places.
We get it. Gotta work his arm up thing.
So, anyway, that's just what I wanted to say.
How about the mustard?
Oh, the mustard, all of you say that, about the mustard in church. What that was we were having a lunch here the day before Bud left, and we had been working here at the community center. We're having lunch, and somebody comes out and puts 2 jars of mustard on the table, yellow mustard and Golden's brown. And he grabs the Golden's brown and says, oh, I get to get the good mustard here. I'm not allowed to have this now. So,
Let me defend myself. He liked to buy in bulk. Because they might stop making it. So I always liked the brown mustard, but he needed the regular mustard. So he had bought about 5-6 jars of this regular mustard. I don't think it was 3 weeks after that he started eating my brown mustard. I said, you eat your mustard, you bought it.
that was just a story I was able to have with him. So humorous.
Thank you.
He always needed ball pockets. The person that we had to sew stuff would get inundated with every pants and every coveralls he had. He needed everything, the pockets lengthened that much. But then all the stuff was down to his knees.
His pockets were down his knees.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
So he couldn't, like, find things a lot. It was down there. I don't know why he wanted these deep pockets. So nobody, you know, she'd never lose anything.
Yeah.
We bought the house next door to the church, and it was sort of in ruins. And Bud would stop by and see if I was alive. He'd bring us food. He would check in. He'd swim in the swimming hole with me, and he was a great guy. And Jeanette was just as good. And the first time I met them as a couple and watched them interact, I said to Kim, "These guys are a piece of work." Actually, they could go on TV. So they were great entertainers. And Bud would expound on how I should change the stream and how I could make it better, and how I needed to put pipes in the stream to protect the fish, and how the fish could breathe better. And it was mind blowing what he knew about and how much he loves to protect these waterways. And soon after we got the house, we were in Dushore, and we were on the North Road coming out of Dushore, or whatever that is. And there's Bud on the side of the road. We blew right by.
I think that's Mr. North.
And he had his little camo fishing hat on. And I go, that was Dr. North. Like, we gotta go back. So we go back, and his car had broken down, and he's got his frozen cow embryos and his liquid nitrogen. and then he had enough fishing gear, and he was doing a job. He was doing a real job. But he had enough fishing gear, he could have opened a store. So he transferred everything to another car, and we got him out of there, and it was an eye-opener.
He was always ready to fish.
He was always ready to fish. So I have a friend that's a passionate hunter, Steve Wagner. Steve, I said, you gotta meet Dr. North. He knows everything up here. He's amazing. He's a wilderness guide. So Bud said, I'll take you out turkey hunting. Great. So we get all this gear and we're armed to the teeth, and Bud packs a fishing rod. And I go, what? I'm not a big hunter, but I said, well, how do you catch a turkey? He goes, there's these great fishing holes on the way. You guys can shoot up the forest. I'm fishing.
He also said that they would only take you in to call out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, exactly.
you would just scare them all away.
I'd scare him.
I am Marcia, who's Uncle Bud to me. Sorry.
It's okay.
My husband Curtis, the nephew. I have to tell you that I'm jealous of all of you who knew him longer than me. We got along very well. We enjoyed joking around with each other, that's the truth of it. To say that Uncle Bud was a man of comfort is an understatement. Whether it was his clothes or his food, it was comfortable. You really have to admire a man who likes that much comfort, but you have to be cautious too, because you might receive some of that comfort. It is contagious. When Uncle Bud and Aunt Jeanette would come to stay with us for a few days during hunting season, we always had a lot of fun. He loved sleeping in the chilly first floor, while Aunt Jeanette was warm and cozy in the guest room. Can't figure that out, but that was his deal. Then he thought we were pretty goofy because we didn't have TV. But I think he liked TV because he could sit in his comfortable chair and take a nap. It had nothing to do with TV. He made me comfortable too. Whatever I cooked for him, he enjoyed it. He told me so many times. He wanted me to teach him how to make bread, the bread that I make. We never got that far because then he changed his mind and found somebody to buy bread from. Out of all the things that he liked about what we shared is he liked my homemade granola. Every time he got granola from me, he would say, "This is the best batch ever." And he was promised a lifetime supply. Actually, I wasn't allowed in the house unless I brought some along. But, to be as comfortable as Uncle Bud always was is something we should all be striving for daily. Maybe for him, the comfort came from his life's achievements, his family, his involvement and his love for his family, and for his friends. But maybe it came from his thoughts that when he leaves here, he's going to heaven. I can't think of a more comforting thought. And to me, that he knew that, and that's the greatest thing that could make him comfortable.
Amen. Thank you.
My sister's first son, so that's how I think. But anyway, some of the cool stuff that you might not know that has to do with his professional life and personal life out in New Enterprise is he used to call himself 614. Anybody ever hear? Huh?
641.
641. He used to call himself 641. And this was in the days when we didn't have modern communication. He used to have this 102-inch whip on the back of his car. And he would call in to home, which is where the office was, in order to explain where he was and whether or not he was available for another call. So back then, you had to use your call numbers because you had to have a license for that kind of thing. So somebody didn't know that he had a nickname of 641. And he also had this really cool dog named Freddie. He was a beagle. And Freddie had a particular howl when he got on a pheasant. So when you're hunting We're going along, oh, that's a rat. Okay, woof, woof. Okay, that's a rat. Next thing you start screaming, oh, he says, that's a pheasant. So, at least you knew what you were up against. But had some really fun times out there hunting in that part of the country. In his younger days, he was in my father's wedding, and they used to pal around. And I remember a cool story. They were at Hunter's Lake. It was my Uncle Andrew, which is my dad's sister, Uncle Bud, my dad. So they're out in the rowboat and they're out there fishing in the lake, and they got a string full of fish. So they decided, well, my Uncle Andrew's gonna eat some chocolate out. So he's rowing and rowing and rowing. Boy, I can't get this thing to go straight. Here, I'm gonna have to go switch the oars over this way, right? Well, the string was on the oar pin. Well, that was the end of dinner. I think he's having a good time with that kind of stuff. We had a great time out there in Bedford, and I remember one of the things that was cool out there. I used to get to go on calls with him over to service the cows, and that was always enlightening. You know, a couple of births and that kind of stuff. This is really good to be younger. I remember coming up here with my grandparents, and I was saying to some of you, it's been 50 years since I've been in this building. I had less to say, except for that heater. That heater was an oil heater. It was a wood heater. And we used to come here for Halloween and so forth, and it was really kind of a lot of fun. Just a great community. So, thanks for keeping it so.
I come back, say 55, and come back on weekends once in a while. But after I retired and sold my business, I had, my house was right next to the cemetery. I used to have a fifth wheel parked up there. And I can remember the first time I met Bud. I had my fifth wheel parked up there. And he came over and told me where he lived and so forth. And I said, well, your name should be Bud Cox. He says, no. He says his name was Bud North. And of course, the guy that used to live in that house was a Cox family, and they had one guy by the name of Bud, who I used to know. And so we got that squared away, and well, I've known Bud ever since that time. And Janet was talking about the deep pockets, and I would say the only person I ever knew that carried frozen blueberries in his pockets was Bud North. And I guess that's why he had deep pockets, because he had frozen blueberries in his pockets. When he'd go for his walk, he had some blueberries, and I guess this was his little treat as he walked along. And but I've always respected Bud, and he's been in my house, and I've been at his house, and he's a great person, great wife, family, and he brought his daughter down to see some of the cherry woodwork I had done in my house. And this is a little bit off of the subject, but as we drove in the parking lot over here, my wife says, this is like being at sea, because you're rolling along. And I brought something back to my mind. When I was a kid growing up, that was Oyster Garden. That parking lot was garden. And the guy that owned it, right up here, his name was Joe Little. And Joe Little walked like this permanently all of his life like that. I guess he was a blacksmith and a woodsman. And he used to, when he cultivated his ground over there, he pulled the cultivator, his wife pulled the handles. And I think Wally probably remembers that. And that's the guy who owns the park. Well, he owned the parking lot at that time, and lived in that house. And it isn't about Bud North, but it's about the history of this area. And as I stand, if I step one step back, there used to be a curtain to across here, and it was about a 3-foot stage. And as a young man, I would come down here, and there was a couple from Williamsport. Jim and Jane, they were country singers. They would come down here and put a program on, and I think it cost a nickel to get in. This was back in the 30s, and used to be a stage here. And but I've known Bud ever since about 19. Well, probably the middle 70s, and miss him. And I couldn't believe that he was over at our house for Labor Day. We had a picnic, and I'd call him home 2 or 3 days later. Yep. And thank you for inviting us.
Marla Keller. I belong to the Good Times Hunting Club. We're right across the street from Mike and Tammy Tynan. And during the off hunting seasons, we have exclusive use of the cabin. So when we would come up on our weeks, we would always come down to church down here. And we sit in the same pew every time we're there, as we did today. And in front of us, as it was today, was Jeanette and Bud. And that's where we first met them. And
We talked and
We
talked,
talked
and
for-
they locked the doors of the church,
Yeah,
we were
talked for
outside
a
talking
long
and
time
talking and talking.
that day, and that's where we first met them. There's so many stories, and we weren't sure which ones we wanted to tell. But anyway, one of the stories that we liked best, and well, at the Labor Day party this year, which was at our house in Jameson City, I actually had Bud tell the story again because it was just so darn funny. But he would say, he told us about how when they lived in Bedford, is it Bedford County? And how they would go to church, and then after church they would always go out for dinner. And one of the places that their son always wanted to go for dinner was this place where they had this parrot. And the parrot would always, as Greg walked in, the parrot would say, "Hello, little boy." And Bud said that Greg loved this place, but he said the food was just terrible. He can't go there.
But we liked how Bud
But he
said,
said,
hello, little boy.
yeah,
Hello,
he
little boy."
had the parrot voice that he shared with us.
It's the first time Greg saw the parrot. They brought the parrot into our office. Something was wrong with it, and they brought it into our office. And Greg was like maybe 4 or something like that. And he always came down to watch Bud work. And so this bird came in, so Greg said to the bird, "Hello, little bird." And the bird said, "Hello, little boy." Greg's back up against the wall.
Yeah.
All right, tell them.
Another funny one, Jeanette, and we were at the cabin, and it was blueberry season, and we loved to go out and pick blueberries, and we picked at the cabin, and Bud said, "Why don't you come down and pick with me?" So I went down and was picking down below their house, up below the road, and Bud and I were doing like guy talk, and all of a sudden he stopped and he looked, and he's looking around the corner, and he heard a noise, and here Jeanette was down in the blueberry patch, and he says, "What are you doing down there?" Oh, it was just funny. The way he said it.
And we're part of the picnic gang, the holiday picnic gang, and we inherited the Labor Day picnic. So this year at Jameson, we had the second annual Labor Day picnic. And it was about 8:30, and people were starting to leave at that time, but I had been in the kitchen getting things cleaned up, and I had my basket with all the goodies for s'mores, and I'm sure most of you know what s'mores are. How you sit around the campfire and roast marshmallows and put the chocolate and the graham cracker together and just enjoy that. But anyway, there were a couple people there yet, and I said, "Oh, don't leave yet, don't leave, we're gonna have s'mores." And Bud and Jeanette looked at me and they said, "What's a s'more?" and two of my girlfriends from the area, Liz and Gail, turned up like, "What? You don't know what a s'more is? Come on!" And so we went out to our little fire that we had in the back, and it was Gail and Liz and Bud and Jeanette and me. And Larry was on the deck with a couple other fellows, but we sat out there and we showed them how to make s'mores. And Gail and I started singing Kumbaya, that's great. But we were laughing and telling stories for probably another hour. And so that's our memory. And Bud and Jeanette were the last two to leave our house that night, and we had him tell the parrot story again. So he always made us laugh. And we're gonna miss him terribly. we just loved him, and we love you, Jeanette, and, I mean, you've been such a blessing in our lives, and I hope we can always be in touch, stay in touch.
We were doing those science experiments, and I learned the true meaning of how to make a cup of tea. And he showed me the tea ball, and that the tea bags were verboten because a tea bag was made from all the sweepings off the floor. But if you make your own tea with the tea ball, it's a whole new game. So he took me to a whole new level. I was like, wow, it was delicious.
I use tea bags.
Don't tell boy. That's why the separate kitchen.
I always said what you need for a good marriage is separate bedrooms, separate bathrooms, and separate kitchens.
It works.
Well, I like to keep his kitchen a little different than I usually kept mine, put it that way.
Cow parts.
Notes, he was a big note guy, there were always notes all over the counter and all over. When we lived in the other place and had one kitchen, if you got a little water on the counter, that didn't matter, the notes were there in the water, all over the counter. And so I said, I'm not moving up here unless I get my own kitchen.
That's great. It worked.
Yeah,